Major League Baseball negotiation update, Maller monologue. So let me give you the truncated version. I will give you the condensed version of events. So less than a week after Rob Manfred and Tony Clark had made tremendous progress meeting face-to-face. In fact, they had negotiated to expand the playoffs from 10 to 16 teams. They were going to widen the use of the designated hitter to the National League and all these other little bells and whistles. They were even going to do that Fugazi starting with a runner on second base thing in extra innings. Well, the players did not vote on Sunday. They waited till Monday to vote, and they thoroughly rejected the proposal. In fact, it was 33-5, 38 votes on the executive board of the union, 33 nay, 33 no votes, only 5 supported the plan. So what happened? Well, we'll get more of that in a minute, but Major League Baseball, the fallout from that just hours later, as the soap opera played out in real time, the baseball ownership side announced that they plan to unilaterally mandate a 60-game schedule, which will make this, the 2020 baseball season, the shortest since 1878. We are looking at the shortest professional baseball season in 142 years because these knuckleheads completely botched this entire process, depending on how you grew up. So, which means baseball is on track for a combative, melancholy return to the field. And we don't even know how many players are actually going to show up and how many guys are going to go AWOL and say it's not worth their trouble and they'd rather play video games on Twitch. Bro, I'm risking my life, bro. Oh, my God.
I'm not playing unless I get mine.
That's right. Don't play. Let us discuss toss-up question based on where we are right now. All right, based on where we are right now, who is ahead in the battle between the owners and the players? All right, so at this moment, it's ownership. All right, so you look at the chessboard. At this moment, ownership's ahead. I've got Sunshine, the jukebox, and the wedding cake. And we will put all these things together. We'll start with this. The owners, drew a line in the sand at 60 games. They decided that was the amount of games they were willing to pay and pay the full prorated salaries. So they will end up, the owners, getting what they wanted. They wanted 60 games. That's all they wanted. They didn't want more. They don't get the expanded playoffs, which is what they wanted also. But as far as the regular season, 60 games, that's what they asked for. That's where they're going to get. And they do that without having to fork over any extra money to the players, because if the players had signed the agreement that would have mandated 60 games, they would have made more money. So explain that. I'll try to. An utter embarrassment for the players of professional baseball. These guys played the entitled card right up until the bitter end. And I have no empathy for these knuckleheads at all. You got to be a real rube to support the players. Look at Mike Trout. Look at Bryce Harper, Max Scherzer, Javi Baez, and all these big stars, these nincompoops in baseball who posted proudly on social media, when and where. Tell us when and where. And now, right now, they're getting out the barbecue sauce, and they're going to eat a big plate of crow. Right? It was fertilizer from the very beginning. Tell us when and where, as long as you meet our conditions. Well, Sunshine is said to be the best disinfectant, but in this case, when the owners told the players when and where, a fully prorated salary would be for 60 games, and they had to start on this date, 86% of the union's executive council said no. They said, thumbs down. We're not going to do that. Thumbs down. Not going to happen. And so that's where we sit right now with the mandate coming in. But it was never about when and where. And if you bought that, you're gullible. All right? You're absolutely gullible. This was always about squeezing out the cold, hard cash from the coffers of the ownership. But they don't want to admit that. Instead, they just, we just want to play baseball. Pandemic be damned, though. This is personal. And just like anything else in life, follow the money, right? Follow the money. Now, part B of this, Tony Clark and the union are gambling. They're putting all their chips right in the middle of the table. that while they are losing right now, they believe that they can shake down the owners in court. And that's really what the tell is on this part of the baseball labor front, that we're going to have a season that'll be mandated probably on Wednesday. There's some paperwork that needs to get done on Tuesday, and then it'll be mandated on Wednesday. I would expect by the weekend, if not a little sooner than that, maybe even Thursday, the day before Friday and the weekend begins, that they will file paperwork and they will start the ball rolling to get to that particular point. Because, again, when and where that mindset is, instead it's crank up the jukebox, and our old friend, the late George Michael, remember that song, Faith? You got to have faith. You got to have faith. That's what this is all about. We are told the union, their grievance, is going to claim that the ownership side violated a provision in that March agreement in the early days of the apocalypse, requiring both sides to work in good faith. And then once the union does that, tit for tat, the baseball ownership side will come back. They will file their own grievance accusing the union of negotiating in bad faith. So again, it's all about faith. This is a faith-based argument is what we're talking about. So instead of Fenway or Wrigley or Dodger Stadium or whatever your favorite ballpark is, the real Field of Dreams is going to be a courtroom in Manhattan. And we are looking at a lengthy and costly litigation situation, and that'll play out over the next couple of months, and likely the way the legal process works, and I know this is an arbitration, so it's a little different, we'll most likely have appeals and will spill into 2021 and could impact the 2021 season as well. All of this, the fallout from the coronavirus negotiations. The only ones guaranteed, the way I look at this, the only one guaranteed to win are the law firm that represents the owners and the law firm that represents the players. Billable hour after billable hour. And I know a lot of these guys are on retainer, but still, this was very similar to the collusion case that had baseball, you go back 30 years, 1990. There was a spring training lockout in 1990, and then the big one in 1994/95. 7.5 months. 7.5 months of strike, and it wiped out the World Series for the first time in 90 years. There was no World Series in 1994, but the union is confident. They, again, are moving all of their chips to the middle of the table. It is risky business. So why is it risky business? By declining the labor deal, you turn down money that was yours. You could have had that money for the chance to get more money, but you need the arbitrator to side with you, right? By declining the labor deal, the union eliminates a $25 million postseason players pool. Gone. Just like that. Snap your fingers. $25 million gone. That means the players will not get paid anything above the meal money during the playoffs and the World Series. I'm sure they will not be surly about that at all, of course. Plus, but wait, there's more, $33 million in advance salary that would have been forgiven for 769 players at the bottom of the salary scale with lower rates of pay while in the minor leagues. That also is out the window. So using Maller math, that's $58 million that the union has flushed down the toilet thinking they can get a financial windfall should they win, should the arbitrators side with them. That is what they are risking. They're giving up $58 million that they would have had in their back pocket, and they're gambling that they've got a case and they're going to win. But at this point, they haven't won, and anybody that knows how these arbitration processes work, good luck. Now, the last word on this. We bring into the chat now Cincinnati Reds pitcher and longtime Cleveland Indian and former Arizona Diamondback, Trevor Bauer, the outspoken Trevor Bauer, a rather unique guy. He's a free spirit among baseball players. Baseball players pretty buttoned up, but he marches to the beat of his own drummer. He was so bewildered, Trevor Bauer. How bewildered was he? He was so bewildered that he essentially crossed union lines in a player criticizing the union, which is very taboo. You're not supposed to do that. Now, Bauer said, quote, "It's absolute death for this industry to keep acting as it has been, both sides." Bauer opined, "We're driving the bus straight off a cliff," the Cincinnati Reds pitcher stated. Now, how is this good for anyone involved? COVID-19 already presented a lose-lose situation, and we've somehow found a way to make it worse. Incredible, the words of Bauer. And he was calm for a while, and then he couldn't wait any longer. A few hours after that initial salvo, he said, "But wait, I've got more to say." And Bauer continued his rant, blowing off some steam. He says, this is a quote from the player Trevor Bauer, "So we gave up shares of playoff money, eliminating the qualifying offer for 2021, paycheck advance forgiveness, COVID-19 protections, and protection for non-guaranteed arbitration contracts for next year to hold on to our right to file a grievance." Close quote. And Trevor Bauer, who's been all over the place during this, on this one, he gets a 10. That's a 10 out of 10. Trevor Bauer nailed it. He's not wrong at all. The Major League Baseball union, right, and the owners, both holding shovels, digging their own graves. They're digging their own graves. Now, baseball's not going to die. They've been trying to kill baseball for 100 years. It just won't be as popular. It'll lose more popularity, and eventually they're going to have a come-to-Jesus moment and figure it out. But from what I am hearing, the setup to the litigation is very straightforward, and it is far from guaranteed. It is far from guaranteed for the union. They are gambling $58 million that they have a case that they will present to an arbitrator, and they are going to win. We're talking about slicing up the wedding cake is what we're talking about. How big a piece of the cake do you get? How big a piece does the person over at that other table, table 8 over there, how much they get? An arbitrator is going to hear the case. If the union proves more games had been feasible, each game on the schedule, should the arbitrator go that way, would be worth about $25 million in salary across the 30 teams. So you're talking about $25 million spread out across the 30 teams in salary. Now, since the union's final proposal was 10 more games than what it appears is going to happen here for the 2020 season, the union was proposing a 70-game season. It appears we're going to have a 60-game season. So if that is accurate, then using simpleton math on this, that would mean we're talking about 10 games at $25 million a game, so $250 million. Plus, you're talking about the union likely throwing on top of that some arguments about the postseason and other hidden complaints that are lower down in the fine print. So it's $250 million. And then the damages. So let the bickering continue. Let the bickering continue in Major League Baseball, and wait until we find out the list of players that are saying, "No mas, I ain't going to play. I'm not playing. I ain't risking my life, bro," because you know that's coming. You know that's coming in the next couple of days, and it's going to happen by next week most likely. We'll get a list of guys, big names, that it's not worth their time. It is not worth their time. It is below them to play a 60-game season. How pathetic is that going to look?